Hello, and welcome back to our Elite Escapes. I'm Jim Sadlier, and today Dan and Melody sit down with Steve from Rascal Voyages. Take it away, Dan and Melody.
Thank you so much for that great introduction, Dad, and welcome back to our Elite Escapes. I'm your host, Dan Sadlier, with my co host, Melody Sadlier, and today we have on Steve from Rascal Voyages. But before we bring on Steve, if you haven't already, make sure to click the subscribe button below, like this video, and make sure to share it with all your travel loving friends. And if you stay to the end of this episode, you will get a sneak peek inside Rascal Voyages. So with that, Steve, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. Could you start by telling us about Rascal Voyages and what inspired you to create such a unique luxury yachting experience in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, for sure. Well, firstly, great to see you both, and thank you very much for the invite. It's great to be here. I love your backdrop, so that's beautiful where you guys are. So I'm away on holiday in the UK, so I'm in a holiday house. So it doesn't look quite so glamorous, but great to be here. So yeah, Rascal Voyages, as it sounds like voyages, it's yachts. I actually refer to them as floating villas, and I'll get back to that. The reason why I refer to Rascal Voyages as floating villas is I think if you kind of talk about it as sailing or yachting, it really does get quite niche, and you can really only attract a certain people. We set this up to kind of provide an amazing experience and exploring Indonesia, which many people, when you talk about Indonesia, they think of Bali, but Indonesia is 18,000 islands. Most of it is undiscovered. And so a great way to do that is on the water, because the infrastructure is not quite there. As far as there's only a few airports, there's not so many bridges, so a lot of it's not connected. So the best way to explore is on the water, but not in a yacht, in a floating villa. So that's what we're all about. We're about discovering the undiscovered, exploring the untouched, but in total luxury. And I think your other part of the question, Dan, was, what inspired me to it. I think there's two stories here. I'm not sure how much time we've got, but I'll give you the short one first, and then give me the wink, and we can go a bit longer. But the short one, I think, was just my background. I've been in the UK. Sorry, I left the UK originally from the UK. I left the UK about 20 years ago. I've been running my own businesses for 18 years. A lot of kind of background in hospitality, so setting up restaurants and bars and that kind of vibe. And I really wanted to create something that was truly memorable, I suppose. I think back maybe 10 years ago, I think luxury travel was it could feel like you were going to the same hotel and having the same experience. And I wanted to create something where getting back to where travel was kind of exploring, but with no compromise on luxury. So still having all the great stuff, but having an experience that you actually had to use your passport and go somewhere, but then like truly kind of explore the culture and immerse yourself. But again, doing it with total luxury in mind. So that's the short story. If I may, I'll go a little bit longer.
Okay.
So I was just going to say that the longer story of how it all came about, because I get asked this question a lot, is I touched on that I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. Around 12 years ago, I set up a property fund, and it was a very simple land bank fund. And that was a simple business idea of buying absolutely gorgeous. I'm not sure if I told you this story before, guys, but beautiful oceanfront facing land in Indonesia. So to buy as much as possible. I used to sit in Singapore. When I looked in Singapore, I used to go onto Google Earth, and I used to kind of look for this amazing land. And the general business idea was that it should be beautiful, but it should be inaccessible, with the idea being that as infrastructure improves, airports come online, road infrastructure improves, the access will improve, and the land value will go up. So that was the simple land bank property fund idea. So 10 years ago, so that was about 12 years ago that started. Around 10 years ago, I was on a tiny little boat, a long tail boat, those tiny little wooden boats that kind of have a lawnmower engine on the back, bam, 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 bam. And this land was super inaccessible on the west coast of Sumbawa. And if you don't know where Sumbawa is, it's two islands. That's all it is, two islands east of Bali. So Bali, Lombok, Sumbawa. I was on the west coast, and I was having a look at this beautiful piece of land. I had to be in a boat because it was inaccessible. and I was looking at it. It was absolutely fantastic. The land it was gorgeous, perfect, white sandy beach. The water was ocean clear and blue, and the marine life, there's turtles. Nobody around. It worked out. I was the second foreigner that ever stepped foot on that beach. So like super remote, even though only 2 islands east of Bali, not far at all. And the idea around all of this, I suppose that was the inspiration with my business partner, saying, even though I was on the most terrible boat that could have possibly been, as oil fumes in my face, gas fumes in my face, no protection for sun, no drinks, no service, none of that. But it was absolutely stunning. And thinking, wow, there's 18,000 islands in Indonesia. This is 2 islands east of Bali. It's not that remote, but there's no one here, and it's totally beautiful. How about creating something where you could explore those 18,000 islands, but do it in total luxury, amazing safety, first class service, amazing food, amazing drinks. So that's when we started Rascal Voyages, and we built all of the Pinisi yachts, which are slightly different to most other Pinisis, which is the Indonesian kind of traditional yacht. And we took out the sails and we took out the masts, and we took 3 years to build them, and we built a fleet of floating villas to now welcome guests from across the globe to come and explore Indonesia.
I love this. I love that floating villas. Oh my gosh, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I know you said a lot about it, just now, but what sets you apart from any other luxury yachting companies in the region? And what unique experiences do you offer to make their voyages unforgettable?
Sure. I think same in the Mediterranean, most yachts and in Asia and probably Caribbean, most yachts are owned by very wealthy individuals or families, and they don't really want to charter them out, but they do charter them out to kind of cover the operational expenses. Whereas with Rascal Voyages, we're very different. So we are set up kind of like a small boutique hotel operation, right? We have 12 members of team in a Bali HQ, and we have a total of 34 crew, and they're full time. So it's not like we get a booking and we get freelance crew in. We have 12 crew on each boat. They live there. They're full time, and we have 12 people in the office to support absolutely everything. So Melody, the first thing I'd say would be our team. From every single touch point on the journey, whether it's you guys kind of calling us up and saying you've got a great client and what they're interested in, that every single touch point of that journey until they get on board, and then all the experiences and activities that we'll get onto until they leave, every single touch point, it needs that wow factor, right? And it's hard to provide a wow factor unless you really are authentic about it. And our team, they're just fantastic. It's their home as far as the crew, and like any good host, they love showing it off, right? And so that authentic hospitality comes through. So yeah, I'd say our team is probably a big factor of what we do and how we're different. I'd say more specifically around the product, maybe how we're a little bit different. I touched on earlier that they're floating villas. One of the key points, I don't come from a traditional sailing background. I didn't go on sailing holidays as when I was growing up. And so when we started doing this and I started saying, okay, how could we create this amazing experience? We sat down with a naval architect, and I was trying to figure out, why are all the yachts in Komodo National Park at this time of the year? And why do they then kind of migrate up to Raja Ampat and through the Spice Islands at this time of the year? And the answer is basically because you want to stay away from the wind. Wind is not your friend. Like, we're not performance yachts here. Like, it's just the yachts, the boats, the floating villas. They're literally a platform to take you from place to place. And so it's the crew and the activities and the food and all these things that really make the experience. But there was a few things when I sat down, because you want to get away from the wind. I was like, maybe because I'm not traditional sailor, or maybe because I just think like a 5-year-old all the time. I was like, well, why? If you don't want wind, why have you got the mast and sails? And I then started doing research and speaking to people, and these other yachts, they have these beautiful sails, but they're never put up, because you want to be away from the wind. They do get put up once for the Instagram photo, but apart from that, they're not used. So I sat down with the naval architect and said, well, what happens if we take away the masts and we take away the sails? Like, what does that enable us to do? And it basically gives you a lot more room. And so with us, we took that out. It enabled us to move all the cabins above deck. So that's why I talk about a floating villa, because again, for me, not coming from a traditional sailing background, perhaps, but coming from a hospitality background, I like a cramped, dark, gloomy, damp kind of cabin, but beneath deck. That's not luxury for me. And then like a shower, like above the toilet, that doesn't work either, right? So with Rascal and Rebel and Rogue, which are our yachts, our floating villas, all of the cabins are above deck with 2-meter ceiling heights. And they all have bay windows. Everyone has an amazing cabin. They're all en suite, power showers and all this kind of stuff. So we're very unique in that aspect, as far as the product itself. And I suppose the final element that to speak about then, as far as experiences, I could talk about this for hours, because the vast majority of what we do is private voyages, like buyouts. I'd say that's probably 80% of what we do. The other 20 obviously being cabin voyages, where you just take a cabin or 2 cabins and you share the experience of like-minded rascals. But most of the time it's private buyouts, whether it's one big multi-gen family, or maybe it's 2 families, or it's 3 or 4 couples. So it works really well. And then because it's private, it's completely bespoke to what the client wants, right? We can suggest, and we have hundreds of bespoke kind of, templated, itineraries that we know work, and experiences that we believe will match the client. But you guys know your clients best, and we know the destination best, and so we kind of pair that together. But yeah, it goes from anything. Some people want to do 3 dives a day, and they want to go bird watching and trekking and super active kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, and doing all of that, and we can do that. And some people just want to kick back and read a book and drink cocktails, and we can do that too. Or you can do all of it, or somewhere in between.
I love that, and obviously what you already covered is that with these floating yachts, they are beautifully designed peninsula yachts. And so could you tell us a little bit more about the amenities on your, let's just say, floating villa?
Yeah. Yeah. So our amenities is everything's included in the price. So I always struggle a little bit on this one, because it's not like, we have amazing this or whatever it is, and because everything's all in. The only thing is alcohol is on consumption, but if you wanted the alcohol included in the price as well, we can package that up. That's not an issue, but some people prefer it not in. But otherwise, everything's in the price. So everything from all your food, all your drinks, if you want to do 4 scuba dives a day, that's included as well. We have dive instructors, dive masters, yoga instructors, spa therapists, 12 crew, 2 private chefs, all your food, all your drinks, as I mentioned, all the activities, and that's scuba diving, snorkeling, kayaking, stand-up paddleboarding, bird watching, trekking, yoga. It's all in, right? So yeah, it's difficult to say what special amenities there are, because everything's kind of within the experience.
Wow. This sounds so amazing to me. Oh gosh. What does a typical day on board Rascal Voyages look like to your guests? Can you walk me through so I could see what we do from morning to night?
Yeah, would love to share with you some itineraries to our kind of, maybe my favorite itineraries. We'd love to share those, and maybe you could pass those on to anyone. But again, it's really catered and bespoke towards the client. And what we love to do is, as soon as somebody's interested and you think somebody might be interested, it's to jump on a call with them. And as I said, we've got 12 people in the office in Bali. Most of those guys have worked on the boats or floating villas. They understand the area extremely well, and we can really get bespoke. So it'd be very different if it's a multi-gen family, whether it's couples, how active they want to be. But to give you an idea, I'd say, let's say they're relatively active. Like when I'm on board, I love to get up early. because I go to bed early anyway in Bali, but it's especially on the boat or floating villa. I keep calling it wrong. So I'm usually up early. I love to go for an early morning, either bird watch or a dive, perhaps. So usually you get up early. The crew are already awake. They've got your favorite coffee waiting for you. They'll have some fruit, fresh fruit, seasonal fruit, whatever that be from the area. They'll have pastries that have been freshly baked and some coffee and all that kind of stuff. So you'll have your first breakfast, and then you'll go off and you'll do a dive or a bird watch. So like in Raja Ampat, you've got the bird of paradise, absolutely amazing. So you go and do something like that. And the bird watching can just be from one of our, with each of the yachts, floating villas, you have two tenders, two small speedboats. So we'll go and we'll explore like the mangroves, wherever it will be, with the binoculars, and as the sun is rising, that's fantastic. Or you do an early morning dive, then you'll come back from that. You'll have your second breakfast. Your second breakfast is whatever you want it to be. So if you want to try some local fare, whether that's mie goreng, fried noodles, or nasi goreng, fried rice, which is fantastic, or you want to have baked eggs or omelets, anything, pancakes, it's kind of whatever you want, as much as you want. After that, you then mid-morning, you might go and read a book, or you might have a massage or something like that. Maybe you want to do some yoga and stretch out, or possibly we'll go for a local community visit. So we go and sponsor quite a lot of schools and local communities, and that's great. Kind of, it blows my mind. There's like a village of 200 people, 100 adults, 100 children, in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And we go there and we take supplies and speak to the kids, and we go in the classrooms, and our guests love doing that. So we could probably do that, like something like that after breakfast. And then we'll have lunch probably after that. That could be on board, or it might be the crew love setting up like a pop-up beach club, which will have, in the middle of absolute nowhere, really in the middle of nowhere, and you'll have, a volleyball court. They'll set up a little futsal pitch. You'll have, all the speedboats and kayaks and everything going on there. And we'll set up a picnic tables, and you can have lunch then. And then afternoon, usually people, myself, afternoon naps, reading a book, relaxing. Maybe you want to do an afternoon activity again. Could be going for exploring, doing stand-up paddleboarding or kayaking. And then every afternoon, as the sun comes down, everybody has a shower and gets on the roof deck, and we put some music on, and we do canapes and sunset cocktails. And then obviously after that, you come downstairs and enjoy a fantastic dinner and as many drinks as you want.
I mean, that just sounds amazing. I just remember the first time I met you and Sharifa, and just being like, oh my gosh, this sounds like such like a dream vacation, in all ways. And I think it would just be such a fun thing. So if anyone watching right now, if this sounds like a great trip to you, make sure to comment below, make sure to let us know. And maybe we put together a group, we all go out there. Otherwise, if you have a multi-generational family or anything like that, any sort of group, you want to go with your friends, bachelor party, bachelorette party, whatever, Steve is the guy that is going to make it possible with Rascal Voyages. Actually, I said Elite Travel and Events will help you out, but Steve is definitely the person we'll be talking to make sure that it is a truly vacation to remember for a lifetime. But with that, let's take a quick 20-second break, and we will send it over to Jim.
Have you ever dreamed of going on an African safari? Join Dan, Melody, and I this November 7th through 15th. We'll be traveling through Cape Town, wine country, and an exclusive safari in Kruger National Park. We only have a few rooms left. Reserve your spot today.
And we are back with Steve from Rascal Voyages. Thank you so much, Steve, again, for joining us. What we just talked about a little bit about the food throughout the day, and it's all included. I mean, that's such a nice thing, especially when you're over there, you're just cruising around, you're enjoying the beautiful scenery, you're swimming, you're scuba diving, you're doing yoga. I mean, it's endless of all the different possibilities you have out there with Rascal Voyages in Southeast Asia. But to cover, again, a little bit more about the food, could you just tell us more about the dining options again and culinary experiences guests can expect on Rascal Voyages? I know we kind of talked about it, but a little more.
Sure. I think first, I'm a huge foodie. I'm not overly keen on, foam on the food and 3-star kind of fine dining, but I love my food. I love good food. I love good produce. I love the philosophy of kind of Mediterranean food, Italian and Greek food. So you keep it super simple. You have the best possible products that you could possibly get. But you do it in the most simple way that you possibly can. But it definitely has that Indonesian and Asian flair to it. So we'll use the Indonesian spices and all of that. So that's kind of the philosophy of it. We have 2 private chefs on board each floating villa. And so during the kind of booking process and the voyage planning, we'll find out, do you have any preferences? Do you have any allergies? What do you have? And we'll again cater that for you. Getting more specific, breakfast is a la carte. So, people wake up when they wish to wake up. So, people wake up at different times. As soon as you wake up, you can get whatever you wish and you just order a la carte. We kind of touched on that. It could be Indonesian fare, it could be pancakes, could be whatever you want. And have as much as you want. So, and off you go in the coffees and leisurely take it at your own time. Lunch and dinner, again, I don't want to undersell this because it's such an important part, the food of the experience that we provide. But lunch and dinner is family style. So that it's put down all in front of you, and you kind of serve yourself and help yourself. Obviously, we have waiters and bar staff and everything there to assist, but it's kind of kept to be as relaxed as possible. You should feel like it's a home away from home, but you've got total luxury and comfort in mind. As far as what it might be, lunch is, I'd say it's not very carb heavy because you're usually quite active and people don't like to have loads of pasta and carbs and then kind of go and they don't really feel like getting on a kayak or going wakeboarding after that. So that might be typically for lunch, like could be whole grilled snappers, for example, and then lots of different salads, super delicious salads. And then your dinners be slightly heavier, maybe like beautiful Asian stir fries, maybe crudo with freshly caught fish or sashimi, satays, that kind of style. Yeah. And from a drinks perspective, uniquely on Rebel, we have a wine cellar. So we have 225 bottles of wine on board. So they always pair very nicely.
Oh gosh, this sounds so good. You're making me hungry. You're making me, oh, I want to go on here.
Well,
You
we
know,
need to get
you know, I'm sure you have so many testimonials from your guests, that sailed with you, because it sounds wonderful. What feedback do you often receive from them? What's the memorable story? I'm sure you have tons of them, but can you tell us, something that really sticks out?
Yeah. We had one recently that I like to tell, and it is actually from someone from our industry. So that they're also a travel advisor, and they've been in the industry for a long time. They were very reluctant to come on a boat, a yacht, but they did. And his exact quote was, I hate boats, but I could stay with Rascal Voyages for a month. It truly does feel like a floating villa exploring an undiscovered world. So the fact that this person was very against it, they didn't want to go on a boat. Plus, they've probably visited every 5-star, 6-star, 7-star kind of experience out there across the last 30 years. And said it's kind of the best thing that they've ever done, and they could stay for a month. That was very memorable. And I think, a very English saying this, but proof is in the pudding. And we get a lot, we've been in operation 7 years now. We have a lot of repeat clients. We have the good thing about, a floating villa is people want to come back and have the similar experience, and they can do that, but we move around. And so it's a different experience. It's in a different destination, but it's just on the same floating villa, the same crew, but in a completely different experience, completely different part of Indonesia. Indonesia is massive. Like you take America east to west, that's Indonesia north to south, right? So there's so much to explore. So we have a lot of repeat clients, we have a lot of referrals. And this doesn't sound good, but we also have, it is good. We have lots of tears on departure. So I think that is the bonding that happens between one, the family or the people who are on board, but also with the crew. I'd say we have a strike rate of 70-75% of tears on departure, which I think is testament to people having an amazing time.
100%. That's such a compliment, first off, for the tears, because it shows of what a great job your whole team did during their time on one of your Rascal Voyages. And just have to go back to the food. We're like total foodies over here too, and that all sounded amazing. So very cool. And just the 18,000 islands. Just had to kind of go back to that too. That's such another part of this that I didn't realize how huge Indonesia is, or how you said it's like east west of the states and north south for them. So super cool. I mean, there's just so much to do, and that actually kind of goes into our next question. So we have a question from one of our viewers. John from Colorado asks, your voyages explore some of the most stunning locations in Southeast Asia. What are some of the highlights and must-see spots in these areas that you personally recommend, Steve?
Yeah. For me, Raja Ampat. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Raja Ampat. It's absolutely stunning. It really does feel like it's an undiscovered world. I think David Attenborough recently referred to it as one of the world's last kind of undiscovered paradises on Earth. It contains 75% of all marine biology, and it's one national park. So like the water and the marine life's absolutely stunning. And it's one place that, it's fantastic doing all the activities and everything that we've talked about, and the food and all that kind of stuff. But you can just sit there with, a soft drink or a beautiful cocktail in hand, and you've just got this amazing landscape kind of passing all the time, whether it's volcanoes or it's mountains, marine life, and there's nothing there. You can go. I've gone 4 or 5 days without seeing another boat. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. So for me, Raja Ampat would be right up there. I think it's, anyone that's really, really enjoyed Galapagos or a safari or, anything like that with activity, luxury, adventure, kind of exploration, but in total luxury, I'd put Raja Ampat right up there, top of your bucket list.
Ooh. Okay. Well, Katie from California asks, this is a typical woman question, okay?
Yeah.
What is the dress code on my floating yacht, Rascal Voyages?
We'd advise some clothes. But really, apart from that, it's whatever you wish to. I think, again, it's your home. Most of what we do is private. If it's not, it's cabin. Most people are, they're in swim shorts most of the time, linen shirts, whatever you're most comfortable in. There is no official dress code whatsoever. The dress code is comfort. Come with whatever makes you feel the most at home. When I'm on board, I'm either in swim shorts or I'm in shorts and a linen shirt or a t-shirt. You don't, as soon as you get on board, you put your shoes or your flip-flops in a box, and you don't see them again until you depart. So it's relaxed.
Sounds perfect. I mean, what a dream vacation. And I'm sure a lot of you out there agree with that. So make sure to comment below if you are thinking about a Rascal Voyage. Truly a once in a lifetime opportunity for you. So thank you so much. First, everyone who viewed this episode, thank you for sticking with us. And Steve, we're good to go. Thank you so much for joining us today. Truly appreciate you and letting everyone know about your amazing floating yachts with Rascal Voyages. So once again, thank you so much. Everyone, please make sure to stay to the end of this episode and you'll get a sneak peek inside Rascal Voyages. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel below. Make sure to like this video and share it to all your travel-loving friends, especially those friends who love Southeast Asia or at least want to try it. So again, Steve, thank you so much. And we will see all of you next Friday.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on our Elite Escapes. Make sure to come back next Friday as Dan and Melody sit down with Shailene from the ultra-exclusive Mosquito Island. And now your sneak peek inside Rascal Voyages.